You're being manipulated on a daily basis without ever even realizing it. Your identity has been shaped by very specific messaging, engineered to condition your subconscious thoughts and even influence your behaviors, your habits, even your desires. And it's all done without you ever suspecting a thing. Welcome back to the Law of Attraction Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Keith, and today we are diving down the rabbit hole of dark psychology and how it's been used over the last century to shape narratives, influence markets, and control the population. And it's all done subconsciously, meaning we've all been blissfully unaware of it, thinking that we have free will and our thoughts are our own. But don't worry because there is a light at the end of this tunnel because I'm going to teach you how to bypass it. And not just bypass it, but how you can then flip the script and use these sneaky little tricks for good so that you can improve every area of your life and do it in a way that you are giving your consent to. So, before we can dive into the dark psychology and how it has been literally brainwashing us, you have to understand the subconscious mind versus the conscious mind. And if you've been around for a while on this podcast, you know I've talked about this a lot. So I'm just going to give a really brief review. So the subconscious, a lot of people will just refer to it as the unconscious. I always call it the subconscious because I think when we say unconscious, it can get confusing because a lot of people, myself included, you hear unconscious and you think passed out, like you're not awake at all. That's not what I'm talking about here. The subconscious is the part of you that's running your body and it's really running your life 95% of the time. So it is responsible for pretty much everything. All of your bodily functions, like think about the fact that you never have to actually think about breathing or pumping blood or regulating your body temperature. When you have a baby, you don't have to think about all the nutrients that your body needs to give to that baby. You don't have to think about digesting food. Those kinds of things are all done subconsciously. So your subconscious is incredibly, incredibly intelligent. Your conscious mind is what you are consciously aware of. So, us right now, like you're listening, you're consciously aware, that is only what is driving your life like 5% of the time, which sounds crazy, but just think about going through your whole day, how many times you drift off when you're in a routine. So, even when you're driving, if you're going somewhere you've been a bunch of times, your subconscious autopilot will kick on. And you might be off in la la land daydreaming, but your subconscious takes over and gets you there safely. We do this all throughout the day without even realizing it. So it's important to know your subconscious is really like controlling everything. It's like the director, the producer, everything behind the scenes. And you're like the actor that only comes on stage for a brief moment for that one clip that you're filming, and then the subconscious does everything else. So that's just a little analogy that helps me distinguish between the two. Okay. And then I want to give you just a mind blowing fact. I brought this up so many times, but it truly is insane when you think about it. Okay. Your subconscious receives roughly 11 million bits of sensory information per second. 11 million every single second. Your conscious awareness can only handle about 50 bits per second. So 11 million versus 50. This is how different the two are. So your subconscious is picking up on all of these things that you consciously are completely unaware of. You're not seeing it, you're not processing it consciously, but your subconscious is. It's taking it all in. So this means almost everything that your brain perceives is processed outside of conscious awareness. So all of that 11 million bits of data, it all comes in, and then your brain has a filter called the reticular activating system. And this is what distinguishes those 50 bits. It's things that are important to you that are kind of like, think of them as like hashtags or like tabs that are things that are relevant to you, and that's what's processed. So your conscious mind is basically the tip of the iceberg. Your subconscious, in every single moment of your life, it is scanning your environment. It's scanning what's normal, what's accepted, what gets rewarded. That's a really big one. So if you're in an environment that normalizes burnout, complaining, playing small because God forbid you're a show off, that is what your subconscious is going to start to seek out to show you consciously because that's what's considered normal. It's a pattern. So we are conditioned, and I've talked about this, you guys know by now. We're conditioned in our school system, and then it's reinforced in our society and our work culture about that very thing, playing small. You don't ask questions, you don't question authority. You are a compliant worker bee. It's normal to be stressed out. In fact, it's a badge of honor because it means you're working hard, and working hard leads to success, right? Like these are all things that our environment is constantly telling us from the time we enter school. And so you subconsciously adapt to it. And the reason why I say all that, I know, trust me, this episode will get more interesting. I just have to give you that little bit of background, especially if this is all news to you. But most conditioning isn't forced. It's not obvious. It's not like you're in a cult and it's so obvious you're being brainwashed, or like you're in an abusive relationship and everyone's like, oh my God, it's so obvious. Like he's literally telling you X, Y, Z. It's not like that. Most of this conditioning is so sneaky. It is passive exposure that is repeated over time that has an emotional association to it. And those three things are things that you're not consciously aware of. It's not like someone's telling you, hey, you are not allowed to question authority. You have to be a compliant little worker bee. They're having you read between the lines by creating all of these situations where you're getting in trouble and feeling maybe an emotion of fear, or an emotion of embarrassment for speaking up. And over time, as you're exposed to these things, even if it's not you, even if it's the kids sitting next to you in school, you still have that repetition of seeing what happens and the emotions tied to it, and it gets you in line real quick. So that's just kind of like society as a whole, how this subconscious programming happens. But it goes like so far beyond that. And some of these things you're probably aware of by now. I feel like so many people are more aware of it because we talk about it on social media and whatnot. But there's also some things that you might not be aware of. So I'm just going to go over all of it because I think it's going to be really helpful for you moving forward to know how you're being manipulated without you realizing it so that you can sort of curate your life, what you're exposing yourself, that passive exposure. That's the part that you have control over. You can curate your life so you aren't exposed as much to these situations. And I'll get into that as we go. So let's start with like the simple, obvious things we've all heard before, which is that movies and shows, especially that you watched growing up as a kid, they were programming you. Now, it doesn't really matter the motive of it, okay? We're not going to get into like the dark conspiracy side of it on today's episode. So, like, regardless of motive, like maybe it was even people had the best intentions, but the result is that what you watched, especially growing up as a child, was what shaped your relationship expectations. So let's just start there for a second, because this is something that I realized in my 20s when I met my husband, and never realized it my whole life until it hit me one day. So think about all of the Disney movies, like all of them, all of the movies that we grew up with as a kid, they all had the same like Prince Charming, right? And like the whole movie, you don't really know about the guy. You don't know like anything about him other than he's good looking, he's wealthy or a king or whatever. But that's pretty much all you know about him. And then he comes and he saves the day at the end, and then they live happily ever after, right? And so it's not even just in like the Disney princess movies. This is like the same kind of storyline and like the rom-coms and stuff where it's just like this person is perfect and you just live happily ever after. And so that sounds great, but the problem with that is you grow up thinking or not necessarily thinking because you see like real relationships in your life, but you expect that you are going to be the princess that meets the Prince Charming, and of course he's going to be perfect, and then that's it. Like you live happily ever after, right? It's not showing you like all of the challenges and the imperfections and the things that you overcome in any relationship, or the fact that no one is perfect, myself included, yourself included, right? And so what made me think about this is someone that I knew had posted about this at like the same time when I don't know, we were going through like a rough patch or something, where I just had like unrealistic expectations, which I think a lot of people do in the beginning. And she pointed out like as we are conditioned to think that if our partner is not perfect, there's something wrong with them, and like he's not Prince Charming, and you know what I mean? And that's just not real life. And everyone has their imperfections and everyone has their challenges. And we have to like break out of this mold of just thinking that there is a perfect relationship that we need to compare ourselves to. So that's like one example. The other side, the flip side of that, and especially what I see now with shows that like my daughter has watched, my oldest, is there's this like where they romanticize like the bad boy or the toxic relationship. And this happened when I was a kid too. Like someone did a reel about it, and it was like all these teen crushes that we had in like the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, and it was always like the bad boy that was just not good for you. Because that was the guy in the movie that the girl wanted. And still to this day, it's the same thing. And I'll give you an example if you've seen these shows. So, like Ginny and Georgia, super popular Netflix show. The boy, like the main boy that's her boyfriend in the show, super cute kid. But he's like so toxic. But you're like rooting for them, you know? And it's like that's the relationship that they're kind of romanticizing. But he's as a mom, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so bad for her and he's so toxic. And same thing with The Summer I Turned Pretty. So these are shows, I think a lot of teenagers watch. I know my daughter watched that one too. And like, you're rooting for the guy who, again, it's like a toxic relationship. And so, anyhow, movies and shows can completely shift your perspective, which shifts your expectations for what a relationship should look like. And that is a really big deal for kids, for teenagers, for young adults, when you're expecting something that is completely like not real life. You know what I mean? And it kind of shapes, can get you to compare your relationship to something that's actually toxic and thinking that it's healthy. Or the opposite, like the princess movies where you think it has to be perfect and there's like no realistic expectation that there's always going to be challenges, but that's okay. You overcome those things. So relationship expectations is the first thing. And as I'm saying this, you can just look back and think about maybe some expectations that you had in a relationship. And again, this is all subconscious. So you're not consciously thinking, my guy has to be Prince Charming. But subconsciously, there's a comparison. You're comparing to what you see on TV or in the media, and in real life relationships too. But we're just, for the sake of today and the psychology aspect of it, we're just sticking with shows. The next one is like gender roles. Okay. So I grew up in the 90s and like the early 2000s, and there was so much of like the 90s like feminist messaging. Like, I'm a woman of the 90s. Like, I could do anything. And I fell for that shit hook, line, and sinker. I was like, yes, like, I'm going to climb the corporate career ladder. And, like, I don't need to have kids and like all this stuff. But then it was a very rude awakening for me when I realized, like, yeah, no, you can't do it all. Like, there is a lot of sacrifice that takes place, and no one was really there to help with that. Like, well, what happens if you want to have kids, but you also want to have a job? And, there's that aspect of it. There's also the glamorizing this push for kids to move away when they're 18 at a time when you're entering adulthood, and for the first time in your life you have all these responsibilities and you need your support network more than ever. But it's normal, we're conditioned to think it's normal for you to be on your own and away from your family that can actually help support you and help you navigate through this very big transition in your life. Success, the way you view success is very much shaped by, obviously now with social media, but growing up, like movies, TV shows, the school system, what you think success looks like. And how many have gotten there where they got the white picket fence, or like they're wearing the suit to work and they've got the corner office, or they're like the young, like the boss babe, but you're miserable. And it's not what everyone told you it was going to be. So these are just different ways in which your desires, what you think is your desire, your dream, was actually implanted in you by these external messages that you were getting in the media, on TV, in movies, so on. So that just kind of gives like a overview of some of the basic things we already know of how our perception is influenced greatly. And if you don't consciously ask yourself, what do I really want? It's going to lead you down this path of just trying to please everyone else and feeling really unfulfilled. Okay. So that's the one part of it. The other part is all of those things that I just mentioned. I keep wanting to say messaged. All of those things that I just mentioned, like the gender role expectations, relationship expectations, success expectations, all of that subconscious messaging becomes your internal dialogue. So what happens is when you don't meet these unrealistic standards, your internal dialogue starts saying that you failed. There's something wrong with you. You're not good enough, and your relationship isn't good enough, or you're not good enough, or you did something wrong, and that's why it didn't turn out like the movie. This is what happens subconsciously, this internal dialogue. And it's constantly feeding us the same message that at some level, you're not good enough. You're not as good as everyone else. And again, this is all happening without you really consciously realizing it, but just feeling like you don't fit in, or you're not, you know, you don't deserve this, or you screwed it up. Like, those are the kinds of things we'll think about consciously, not realizing that we've been set up for failure because we've been set up with all these like insane, unrealistic expectations. So not only is it influencing your internal dialogue, but it's influencing your behavior, especially your buying behavior. And this is where it just gets wild, okay? Because the level of power and control that we give away via social media is insane. It is literally brainwashing us. And I want to bring up specifically YouTube. So if you are a parent, you can back me up on this. YouTube, I don't know what the hell they're doing. They are doing something diabolical. I am convinced because kids, especially like younger, like the younger generation, it's like an addiction. It is like literally an addiction. It affects their behavior, their what they're interested in, like everything. So my kids, my 5 and 6 year old, they love watching like unboxing. So there'll be kids or like teenagers and they'll be unboxing things and doing a YouTube video. And it's basically it'll be like a piece of junk, right? But they're like all excited and getting you all amped up for what's this surprise going to be that they're going to unbox, that my kids will like want that thing that they never were interested in before just because like, oh, it's exciting. It's like really exciting. And the way these YouTubers like really amp you up with all these emotions, it's like conditioning you. It's giving you that positive, that dopamine hit. And with kids, it's like I just notice it so much how easily and quickly it influences them. With Amelia, I was like, we've just got to stop with YouTube. Like you cannot watch it because I was noticing that when she would watch it, she would get this attitude. And, what would happen is she's watching these kids that are like little brats on YouTube, and she would be like mimicking, like that would become her identity, and she would start mimicking it. And then the second we would be like, no more YouTube, like she'd go back to being like our sweet little girl that's like not giving attitude and is being, sweet and respectful. But it's just crazy how quickly it shifts their behavior and it shifts like everything that they're interested in. And, this is really concerning when you think about like how deep this can go. So it's not just like what's happening with kids and YouTube. This is happening with adults as well. So it happens with social media as well. So think about all the influencers that you see when you're scrolling social media and they're showing you the outfit of the day or a makeup routine, which seems harmless. And I think it is. Like, I'm not saying anyone that is posting or an influencer has some diabolical scheme that they're conducting, but subconsciously, what this is doing is it's repeatedly telling you that you're not enough if you don't dress as cute as these influencers, or you don't buy this makeup, or you don't do your hair a certain way. And the problem is the repetition. It's in your face all day, every day, to the point that you have 9-year-olds that are wanting to buy $80 skin serum at Sephora because their favorite influencers are using them, and getting all excited and getting them all amped up about it when clearly there's no reason whatsoever to use skin serum at age 9. But this is the level of influence over our behavior that's taking place on social media. So you think about what I said earlier about the movies and the TV shows, and you maybe watched a movie once a week, or like a TV show like every day maybe. But now we're being exposed all day, every day, because we're always on social media, checking in, scrolling, getting messages, people are sending us stuff. Another funny example. So my husband and I were watching this show that kept getting interrupted by ads. Like now all the streaming services are like throwing in ads. And it was every time it was a pharma ad. And the subliminal messaging was insane. I was laughing out loud because It was a video of someone who was like super depressed. And then all of a sudden they're happy and they're like floating on cloud nine. Okay. And while you see this happy, like joyful cloud nine image, the words that were actually being spoken was like the disclaimer that literally was saying this medication can actually increase suicidal thoughts. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like it's wild that anyone is going to be asking their doctor about this medication, but they do. Why? Because it doesn't matter what the words are. It doesn't matter what you're consciously hearing. The logical mind does not matter. It can completely contradict what you're visually seeing and feeling by watching that visual, all because the visual elicits an emotion. And people buy based on emotion. People take action based on emotion. We're emotional creatures. It is not logic that is causing the sale, causing someone to take an action, to change a behavior, or to buy something. It is based on emotion. So the brain actually decides before you logically can catch up to it. Okay, so they've done these neuroscience experiments where it shows that brain activity predicts a decision, and it appears in like the brain activity that they're monitoring before a person consciously decides. So the decision is made before you're ever like consciously aware that you have already made the decision. So in some studies, researchers could detect a person's choice seconds before they reported deciding. So again, before they're consciously even aware of like what decision they want to make, their brain, the brain waves have already decided. The decision's already been made. So this implies that number one, subconscious neural processes begin forming decisions. It's happening at the subconscious level. And consciousness becomes aware afterward. So you're consciously aware after your subconscious has already sealed the deal and made the decision. Okay, this is why emotion sells. Your emotions and your body will signal yes before your brain has time to make a logical case for why you should or shouldn't buy something or do something. So, this is why every company has marketing techniques to create impulse buys because they know they can catch you before you have time to logically think about it. And I mean, there's much bigger, darker agendas when it comes to the government and like how the more that people are in this emotional state of fear or anger, the easier it is to control you. That's why like the news always has a negative spin on things. It's why titles of articles are something that'll be completely controversial because it triggers an emotional reaction. Okay, they want you to be emotionally triggered because you're going to tune in. And when you tune in and there's all this fear-based messaging, you're glued to the screen. You watch longer and you're controlled and manipulated a lot easier. So corporations, as well as now like influencers and entrepreneurs, have figured this out. And so that's why you see like people know the more controversial the topic, the more it's going to grab your attention. So there will be like hooks on social media that'll say something completely controversial just because they know it's going to get you to stop scrolling. They know if you trigger someone's emotions, you're like reeling them in. I mean, it's literally called reels because that's what's happening. So my point is now it's not just the news or journalism that is creating this triggering content. It's like everyone on social media is using it. I mean, people are openly talking about it. Like, this is how, you get more views, get more engagement. And so we're just seeing things left and right that are making you feel really emotional, and it's usually a negative emotion. And I've noticed this so much lately on social media where the energy just feels so dark and I just can't even stand it. It's like I log on and within 5 seconds, I'm just like, I can't do like this is just gross. I just don't want to be on here. Like I don't want to feel that way all the time. And that's where you can like consciously ask yourself, why am I feeling this? What am I being exposed to? And do I want to let it continue? Now, the most evil, maniacal part about it is that the messaging that comes through, whether it's through the news, the government, corporation, like it doesn't matter where it comes from. The point is, the message isn't explicitly telling you what to do, what to think, what to feel. It's all subconscious suggestion so that you don't even consciously realize what's happening. You're just like a zombie tuning in, not realizing that your subconscious is being given commands on what to think, what to feel, and how to react, what action to take. And this is happening all the time. And it really started in the 1920s. This is where this, I'm sure it was around before then, but basically what happened was Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, he took what Freud knew about the subconscious and applied it first to politics to help shape political narratives. And then when that worked, he started going to corporations and saying, hey, people make decisions based on emotion, not logic. Because before that, ads were all about like the product features, the price, how good of quality it is. And he was like, hey, you're doing it all wrong. I can help you with messaging that's going to get people to buy emotionally. And they're not even going to be aware of it. They're not even going to care what the price or the quality or the features are. They're going to buy based off of emotion because people buy based on emotion, not logic. This is what he figured out. And what he did, there was a really big campaign that he did that probably proved this more than any of the others, but he believed that people don't make decisions rationally. They make them emotionally first, and then after they've already made the decision based on their emotion, then they will justify it logically. Okay? I'm sure you do this. I do this. It's called girl math. Like you see people talking about it all the time, where like you want something and you just buy it. It's like an impulse buy. You know it's something ridiculous, but you buy it. And then you start coming up with reasons why that was a good decision. So for me, like my big thing for a long time was expensive handbags. But I would like, after I would make the decision, I would tell myself, well, it's an investment. Like this bag will retain its value and then I can sell it down the road. When you just start like basically selling yourself on why you should buy it because you just want it. You're so emotionally attached to it, you just have to have it. This is what he realized, and this is what he implemented in the marketing world. So, what he did is he went to the cigarette companies and told them, I'm going to double the amount of people that are smoking cigarettes. And they're like, well, that's not even possible because pretty much everybody smokes. And at the time, pretty much all men were smoking, but women were not. It was not really accepted in society. It was just a thing that men did and women did not at the time. So he created this campaign called Torches of Freedom. And at the time, again, like for a woman to smoke, especially in public, it was like a taboo. It was like like who does she think? I don't fully understand it, obviously, because I didn't live in that time frame. But From all historical accounts, that's what they say. It was not a thing that women did in public. So the American Tobacco Company hires Bernays, and he's like, "Yep, we're gonna like get double the smokers." And so what he did is he reframed cigarettes as a symbol of women's liberation, believe it or not. And so he staged a publicity event in the 1929 New York City Easter Parade, where women all came out in this parade, and at the same time, they all lit a cigarette. And it was like this wild, like, oh my gosh, like all these women are just standing up in public and lighting a cigarette. And he called cigarettes torches of freedom. And so he linked smoking, which has nothing to do with women's liberation, but his maniacal brain linked it to independence, rebellion, equality, women empowerment, like all of these things that were gaining traction among women at the time. And it was at this huge parade. So the press was all there. And since it was something that was so taboo, they covered it. Like that was the headlines. And so smoking went from this thing that was taboo to a thing of like empowerment to get women, especially young women, to start smoking cigarettes. So it wasn't like go buy cigarettes. These cigarettes are great. It was like strong, independent women smoke, like stand up for women's rights, smoke a cigarette. Like that was literally the messaging. Okay, so as we know, the female smoking rates like went through the roof, and the American tobacco companies got way more than they bargained for. I mean, it was like off the charts how quickly that shifted things. And so that's how powerful emotional messaging can be. And they've actually studied this. They've studied how you're emotionally influenced without ever being consciously aware that you're being completely manipulated. And this is also known as subliminal messaging. Okay, so I get a lot of questions about this, especially lately. Like, well, what is subliminals? What does that mean? That's what it means. You're being manipulated without being consciously aware. So there's been a lot of experiments over the years, and a lot of them have been sort of pushed down because people started freaking out. People started asking, like, well, who else is manipulating me? I'm being manipulated? Like, and people made a big stink about it. And so they've been very quiet about a lot of these studies, but they're there. There are studies on this. And one of them is called the masked word experiment. And what this did is it showed that the amygdala can respond to emotional stimuli before you consciously recognize that that stimuli is there. Okay. So what would happen is they would have people in front of a screen and they would flash a word like danger. But the thing is, they would flash it at like 30 milliseconds. Like it was so fast, you consciously did not see the word danger, but your subconscious did. And so, like, the way they masked it, it's like the image is hidden immediately. So like you don't realize. And so what happened was the participants, they reported seeing nothing. They're like, I didn't see a word. I don't know what you're talking about. But their reaction times and their emotional responses did see it. The brain perceived it without them even thinking they saw anything. They could see it in their brain waves that they saw something that got them like on alert, like a word like danger. Okay, so they also have done research where they've showed images subliminally of fearful faces. So we're talking milliseconds again, where like if you're asked, hey, did you just see something? Nope, I'm still looking at the screen. I don't see anything. But it was so quick and it was fearful faces. And the brain scans showed amygdala activation, a stress response, meaning their subconscious did see it. So back at the beginning, when I said your subconscious is picking up on 11 million bits of data, you're only consciously picking up on 50. This is what I mean. So you're having an emotional reaction and you're making a decision based on that emotional reaction without ever having any conscious awareness of it. That is scary. That is so scary to think about. That's how sneaky this messaging is. So you're being brainwashed every single day. You always have when you're exposed to these things and you're blissfully unaware of it, right? So it goes back to when I was saying, like, are your dreams really your own? Are you living the life you want to live, or did someone else put that idea in your mind without you even realizing it? Okay, so here's the flip side of it, okay? Because when I learned about all of this in the corporate marketing world, the question that I kept asking myself was, if we can be manipulated subconsciously to buy something, can't we just manipulate ourselves in a positive way to get ourselves to think differently or to take action on something that's going to improve our life? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. You can use these same tricks on yourself, but with total transparency where you're actually consenting to it, right? So, um, the other one, oh gosh, I got to tell you the other one real quick. Um, the other campaign that Edward Bernays did, and the reason why I want to tell you about this is because, again, it's just so dark. Um, but the smoking campaign, so the torches of freedom, that's how they got women, especially young women, to smoke. Um, what I learned when I went to work for a big company is you think the messaging is for like the mom that buys the groceries or whatever, right? But it's not. It's for the kids. They try to get kids when they're young because if you can get them when they're young, number one, they're going to go home and tell their mom what to buy. But number two, you're going to have a lifelong customer if you can get them to have an emotional reaction to a product at a young age, which is why some companies are just great with like nostalgic emotional feelings that they play these same commercials every year at Christmas time. Things like that, or they'll tie their commercial to like a cool celebrity that kids like. So keep that in mind. So the cigarette industry, until the government finally admitted that cigarettes were killing people and were bad, it was like the biggest industry. They were incredibly profitable. And what's the biggest brand that even today people know of? Marlboro. God, I feel like I always say that like weird. But anyhow, the Marlboro Man. So back when this all started, this campaign, before the Marlboro Man, I swear I cannot say that name correctly. Sorry, guys. Before that, it was actually geared towards female smokers. So I didn't realize this until I researched it, but they actually had a red filter tip on the cigarettes to hide lipstick marks. So it was like totally geared towards women. And then the brand was struggling. And so they completely repositioned it. And this is crazy because what they did is they created this like rugged man, right? That's going to represent the company at a time when Westerns were like the big thing. And at the time, any little boy loved Westerns and wanted to be a cowboy. And that was what kids played, you know? And so by creating this, they made the cigarettes not really about smoking at all. It was about identity. It was about, you know, you're a cowboy, you're independent, you're tough, you're masculine. And, you know, boys grew up idolizing cowboys at the time. And so it was basically like smoke these cigarettes, become the cowboy. And it worked. It got, I mean, like it got, it's just so deviant, but like it got kids to smoke. Like a lot of back then, kids started smoking at younger ages. And within a few years, it became the best-selling cigarette brand in the entire world. Okay, so this is like, again, just how they hook people and how it's not really about the actual product. It's not even about the messaging. It's about the emotion that you're making someone feel. They want to be the cowboy, so they're going to buy the cigarette. They want to be the independent woman, so they're going to buy the cigarette. They want to be beautiful, so they buy the beauty product. You get the point, right? So these are all, everything I've talked about so far is having to do with subconscious messaging that is giving you the identity of who you want to be. It's like making you a promise subconsciously. Like, yeah, if you buy this thing, you're going to be like your hero here. And all of this messaging up until this point was visual. It was subconscious visual cues, okay? But this is where I'm going to give you such a good secret for your life because there's something that works even better than visual cues, something that instantly elicits a positive emotion. And it's way, 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 way more potent at the subconscious level. And that is music. Okay. Music is one of the most direct ways to influence the subconscious because it bypasses logic completely and it elicits a very strong emotion pretty much instantly. So think about a song that whenever you hear it, it gives you goosebumps, right? We all have those certain songs. I have an entire playlist on Spotify that's called like Hits Different just because it's like that. It hits me and I get goosebumps and it's like this high almost, which is great to listen to like when you're visualizing, for example. But we all have those songs, right? Like instantly you could be anywhere doing anything in any state of mind and you hear that song and all of a sudden goosebumps. Think about a song where when you hear it, it's like you're instantly transported back in time to your childhood and all of the things that you were feeling at that time just instantly are there. You know, we all know those songs. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying it, but like we all have those songs, right? That's why nostalgia sells so well. And then there's some songs where you just hear it and like it just hits different. It's like you feel the music. You're not just listening to it, you feel it. You're like vibrating with it, right? So an example, I have so many examples, but like one that ever since I was a kid, just always hit me was Beethoven Moonlight Sonata. If you go and like type it in Spotify, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Like I guarantee like you'll know it, even though no one really listens to listens to Beethoven nowadays. But it gives you like chills, okay? And what I've learned is that it's kind of engineered to do that. Not that like Beethoven was trying to do that, but what happens is in these songs, and in this song specifically, in the first movement, there is like this hypnotic repetition. Okay, so it's this rolling pattern that's like a loop. And your brain just kind of like settles into it. It's almost like it gets you into this meditative state very quickly. And when you're in this meditative state, your resistance is lowered and your subconscious is more open to suggestion. And your emotions become very loud. Like you feel things very deeply. It also is the minor key, like so C minor, is usually associated with like melancholy or introspection or longing. And so if you go and listen to Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. You're gonna like you feel it. Like you don't know what this song's about, but you do. Like you can feel what the song is about. It elicits emotions, even listening to it all these years later after it was written. And then also it gives space. So a lot of the music we hear now, like popular new music, it's very fast paced, lots of beats. This isn't. There it has space in the song. And what that does is it it's so hard to explain, but it like lets your mind sort of project onto it. And it'll kind of lull you into like this like daydream, you know? And then the other thing that I noticed that all of these songs do that really hit different is there is like a delayed tension and a release. And that gives so much emotional buildup that that's why I think it's so powerful with like listening to these types of songs when you're visualizing because there's so many like emotions tied into it and kind of like a good, I don't know, just like a good feeling for like your whole nervous system, I guess. So that's just one example of the songs. There's so many. I'm just gonna list a couple. So just because I want you to go listen to these and then you'll get what I'm saying. And you hear a lot of them on social media because people realized if you pair emotional music with your video on social media, it's going to get more views and more engagement because people are going to be emotionally pulled into it. So, one that you'll instantly recognize, it's all over social media. It's called In This Shirt by the Irrepressibles. Bittersweet Symphony, that's a good example. Where Is My Mind, the song from the 90s. Like, there's so many versions of that right now out there. A lot of Lana Del Rey songs, like Young and Beautiful, video games, like all of these songs have these same types of movement that puts you into this state instantly. And so I have a point to all of this, okay? Because you can use this to your advantage. Because what did I say earlier? I said that you your behavior is based on emotion. So how do you make yourself feel this emotion? Myself personally, and there's a lot of research to back this up, music will get you there faster than anything else. It just will. Without you even having to do anything, you just listen. So remember when I said there was this masked word experiment earlier? Okay. Imagine taking that experiment or something similar and pairing the words with emotionally engineered music. This is how my brain works, and that's where I came up with the idea for making subliminal audios. And the reason I do the audio and not the visual is because I just feel like it is more potent. Because yes, seeing the visuals clearly works. That I just talked about that throughout the whole podcast, how that works. But when you listen to it with music that is emotionally engineered, and you can take those masked words and make them positive affirmations that you want to believe and feel and actions that you want to take. And then you have this music that not only elicits these emotions, but it's calming your nervous system. It's regulating your nervous system. And then on top of that, you can layer in certain beats and frequencies that's going to bring your brain into a highly suggestible state. You have like a super potent cocktail, an antidote to what you're being exposed to every day with these sneaky marketing tactics. So you're essentially brainwashing yourself, but you're brainwashing yourself with things that you want, things that you want to believe, actions you want to take, identity that you want to take on, so that it sort of but it's like it balances out the scales of all the negative stuff that you're being exposed to every day. And it works so well. Okay? Because like I said, you're whether you realize it or not, you're getting emotional cues every single day tied to your identity, your self worth. And something that I have found that is universal among everyone, regardless of who you are, how much money you have, what you look like, is we all have this baseline feeling of not being enough because we've had decades of this messaging that tells us we're not enough. And if you were to consciously hear that, like, no, you are enough, no, you are rich, no, you are great, like, it's going to defeat the purpose because it really doesn't matter what you logically or consciously think. What you want is you want your conscious mind out of the damn way so your subconscious that's taking in the 11 million bits of data can get pick out the things that are actually going to help you in life. That is why subliminal subconscious messaging works. That is why in all of these ads, they're not like telling you, hey, wear this lipstick and you're gonna be enough. You're gonna be beautiful just like this model. It's all subconscious. It's all reading between the lines, right? Where you're not even consciously paying attention, but yet you're being influenced. That's what you want. And I'll give you a few specific examples of how I've used this on myself and the changes that it actually has made in my life. So, for example, in the Manifest It Now app, if you go and look up, let me show you where to get this first of all, so everyone can follow along if they want. Okay, so when you open the app, there's like, it says most popular and you'll see subliminal library. That's where I have all the subliminals. If you go to health and vitality vibes and scroll all the way to the end, there's a weight loss subliminal. And a lot of people see this and they think like, oh, it's going to be, I want to lose weight. It's going to be all about losing weight, like affirmations about losing weight. But it's not, because that is not what we're doing. We're being sneaky with our subconscious, right? So it's actually a lot of really beautiful, really positive affirmations about your body being healthy and strong, about how you enjoy working out. Like one of the affirmations, if you scroll down, you'll see them. It says, I enjoy working out and look forward to the exhilarating feeling of endorphins rushing through my body. I move my body throughout the day and it feels so good to do so. So why do I have a bunch of affirmations like that? Because what I'm doing is, instead of saying I want to be skinny, I'm pairing these things with feelings, with emotions. It feels good to work out. That is the correlation that I am making subconsciously. I love working out because I know I'm going to feel so good. It feels so exhilarating. I love it. I look forward to it every day, right? So it's like a positive emotion tied to that subliminal message. So anyhow, I created this a few years ago, and just to put into perspective, I never worked out. My entire life never worked out. I was never athletic, never into sports, didn't even know how to work out. So then going to the gym, like, oh my gosh, I'd feel very self-conscious. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And when I started thinking like I need to work out, I should work out, it was always such a chore. And it's like, oh my God, I don't want to. I just don't want to. It's so hard. That was the way I felt. And then I made this subliminal, and you fast forward to today, and I really truly look forward to it because I know how it makes me feel. And I get that good feeling from it. And on days that I don't, I like instantly recognize that, hey, I feel different. Oh, yeah, I didn't work out today. And I know if I do work out, I'm going to feel good, because that message is so ingrained now in my subconscious that I know working out is tied to feeling good. And so it's not even about like weight loss, it's about being healthy, but I had to tie it into an emotion for it to land, for it to work, for it to get me to take the action that I wanted to take, which is working out, drinking water, eating nourishing foods, which are all like, different affirmations in this subliminal. Another one, and this is like my favorite one that I listen to pretty much every day. It's in the glow up section. It's the Beauty Subliminal 528 hertz. So 528 is a Solfeggio frequency, and it's known as like some people call it the miracle tone, others call it the love frequency. But it's just a very powerful frequency. And you can tell when you listen to it because the music hits you in such a way that almost instantly your body shifts into like this beautiful high vibrational state. And that's why I listen to it every morning when I'm doing my makeup. I will play it. And just a little tidbit, by the way, like I will play that and then I'll listen to a podcast. So you can have the subliminal playing in the background while you're like listening to a podcast or doing whatever. So that's what I do. And it feels really good. And so the beauty subliminal, you might think it's all about like the way you look and improving your looks, but it's not. The messaging, the subliminal messaging is all about feeling confident with yourself, feeling beautiful regardless of any external circumstances, not giving a shit about what other people think. It's about embracing yourself, flaws and all. And so, like I said, I listen to it every day, and I can absolutely tell you, I feel better about myself now than I did 10, 20 years ago when I looked a hell of a lot better, but I didn't feel good on the inside. I was very, very self-conscious of the way that I looked. And now, like, even areas where I've always had deep insecurities, it's not like I think I'm hot shit or anything like that, but I've just come to like accept it and just like love myself regardless and like not really care. You know what I mean? Like but in a good way. Like this is who I am and I'm embracing it now. And I can't help but think that this had a lot to do with that shift because it was so strong the other way with the insecurity. And now, I've paired it with this frequency that's just, oh God, like it just gives you this amazing emotional state instantly. And you can't help but like love yourself. So it's like, it's potent stuff. It is potent. And that's why I'm saying the sound and the music, it just takes it to a whole other level than just visual cues. Same with the financial freedom subliminal. That's my other favorite one. It's at the top, like in the abundance overflow section. And that is all about just feeling good about money, like not being, because I used to be so stressed and anxious. Like talking about money would literally like I'd feel that tightness in my chest, and it was such a strain on me. And the affirmations, let me pull it up. So like the affirmation, it's funny because these seemed so far-fetched when I created this subliminal, but now these are all like literally true. I work half the time for twice as much money. I always have more flowing in than flowing out. I'm financially secure. My loved ones are always taken care of. I feel financially supported by the universe. Like all of these things were so far from the truth for me and what I believed just a few years ago when I made this subliminal. And now, I mean, this is like a part of my being. Like I fully feel supported and secure. And what I found was when you feel lightness, when you're talking about money instead of that tightness, and when you feel more calm, the more abundant you become, the more money flows. So now I work less than I ever have, but I make more than I ever have, which logically, that doesn't make any sense, does it? But energetically, it makes perfect sense because I'm aligned with allowing myself to receive instead of gripping onto money out of fear. And my emotions feel really positive when it comes to money because there's these beautiful frequencies and binaural beats and this calm nervous system regulating music with the subliminal messaging. So I feel wonderful about money instead of anxious. And that takes me from that needing frequency to receiving. And it's just like wild how drastic of a change that was. Like, I can't explain to you enough, like, how much of a 180 this has been for me. But that is the power of using this dark psychology for good to improve your life. And this is how powerful sound and music is. So, what I would say for you is exactly what I've done in my own life. I know it's really hard. I'm not saying like go off of social media and never watch the news again and like live in a hole, because I know that's not the world we live in. But I love doing experiments and just seeing kind of like for myself. So I think you might remember me talking about this. I think it was before Christmas, where I'm like, I'm just gonna like not really post that much on social media. And I just want to see like how badly it screws things up for me in my business. And it's done the opposite. It's been great. But what I wasn't expecting was how much perspective it would give me on like I'm not someone that feels angry and fearful and anxious all the time. Social media was making me feel that way because there's all these crazy freaking things going on all the time that people are posting about in a way that they know is going to trigger you. So you tune in and they get more engagement. And when you cut that off, you cut off that supply, you start to feel balanced again. You start to feel sane again. You start to feel like things aren't so bad. Like in my life, what's in front of me and the people in my life, we're good. And if I turn this phone off, like things are really good. And so it's not to say to just be naive and ignore everything that's going on in the world, but sometimes we look into it a little too much. And I take it from me because I was very into it for a while. And it was like destroying my everything, like my mental health, the way I felt, my emotion, like everything. So try to take a break as a science experiment, whether it's for a day or a week, I don't care. You pick. But do like a little experiment to see how much your feelings and your thoughts shift when you're not being exposed all throughout the day on social media to this type of messaging. And I'm telling you, it is eye-opening. So that's number one. Like try to cut off the supply as much as possible. And I get it. Like, we don't have to be cold turkey or anything like that, but just try to like cut back on what you're being exposed to and then replace it with something good. So, obviously, like I'm all about subliminal messaging because again, this was a science experiment for me and it works and it's powerful. And I use them myself with my kids. And throughout the years, people were asking, I want you to do custom subliminals on my specific goals. I want to do this for my kids. I want to make one for my friend. And I'm one person. I can't do that. Like trust me, like I would love to, but I don't have the bandwidth to do that. And so instead, I created the course that shows you how to do them for yourself, which honestly is better because then you can make as many as you want. Instead of having me make one for you, make 1,000 for all I care, but like you have the skills, so you can make it. And it could be something you give as gifts or help your kids with or sell them if you want to. Like you could literally turn it into a business because my God, the world needs this now more than ever. It's so funny because I get people that take the course and then they message me and they're like, I just feel like wrong. Like I'm stealing your idea. And like, I don't know. I feel weird about it. Like it's usually people that know me. And I'm like, this is what I want. Like I want you to do this. I want as many people as possible because the more that's out there, the more people that are going to listen and the more people are going to wake up to how they've been programmed and start taking control of their lives in a positive way. I fully, firmly believe that. And this is where I feel like we're on this tip of the iceberg where it's like kind of like a war between good and evil, but I think it's more not like a war, it's more of like an awakening where people are waking up and realizing that this stuff, all of this marketing and this messaging and this sneaky ass shit has been going on for way too long and it's enough. And we're going to start taking control of our lives and using that to our advantage. And I feel like we're on that wavelength and people are doing this in so many different ways, whether it's meditation or sound healing or, whatever. This is just one of many ways in which you can do that to stop living on autopilot with dreams and ideas that were implanted in you that were never yours to begin with. It doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been doing what you're doing. At any point in time, you can decide, you can make the decision to change and to do things differently. And I know that's hard. I know from personal experience, okay, because I went through it and it's the scariest thing you can ever do. And it's very hard. It's not easy. But things like this, like using this positive messaging on yourself, will make it easier. It will. And it's not a quick fix. It's not like you're going to listen to this and then all of a sudden your whole life's going to change in one day. But again, it's that repetition. You don't see a commercial one time. They have that commercial playing every freaking commercial break, right? They run these campaigns for repetition. So give yourself the repetition needed to make meaningful change in your life. You can do that. And as you do that, it will become less scary and easier to make the changes that you want to make in your life. So if you want any of the subliminals I talked about today, I will link everything in the show notes. You can go to the App Store and just search Manifest It Now. The subliminal, every subliminal is in there. You can go to lawofattractiontribe.com too if you need any links. And then if you want to make your own, like you want to take your specific goals, and make your own subliminals, or you do want to like sell them and start an online business, you can do that too with Subliminal Creation Lab. So I'll link that in the show notes, or again, just go to lawofattractiontribe.com and you'll see all the information there if you want to check it out. It's very affordable. I made it that way because, again, I firmly believe the world needs this. It really needs it. And the more people that can wake up and start putting this positive spin on things and getting people to start taking control of their lives, the better, the faster things are going to shift in a good, positive, meaningful way. So, thanks for tuning in to my TED Talk. I feel like this was a long episode, but again, it's something I'm just so passionate about. It's changed my life. I know it'll change yours if you want it to. So check it out, and I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.